Hello, everyone. I'm Hans Engel from the Directors Guild of Canada. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to DGC Masterclass 2022, where we celebrate some of the most important filmmakers of our time, both Canadian and international. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional Indigenous lands that we all live and gather on today. Although this event is online, we are all located on traditional ancestral Indigenous lands. In Toronto, I acknowledge the land I am on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. We are grateful to the Indigenous peoples who have cared for these lands and waters for thousands of years. Many of us have come as settlers, immigrants, and newcomers in this generation and generations past. We also acknowledge those who came here forcibly, particularly as a result of the transatlantic slave trade. Therefore, we honor and pay tribute to the ancestors of African origin and descent. We are extremely fortunate to have renowned self-described storyteller, MC, actor, broadcaster, music geek, and down-to-earth beat junkie Odario as our moderator. Once a student of acting, Odario dropped out of the University of Winnipeg's theater faculty to pursue a career in music. His live hip-hop crew, Grand Analog, has opened for many international acts, including Questlove's band, The Roots. So far, Odario has written and released songs for The Hallucination, formerly known as A Tribe Called Red, Maylie Todd, Shad, Antibulus, Cadence Weapon, Mad Professor, and Posthumous of De La Soul. Since 2017, he's been a regular fixture on the radio airwaves as the host of After Dark, heard weeknights on CBC Music. His debut solo record, Good Morning Hunter, released in 2020, is produced by composer Todor Kobakov and can be heard on all streaming platforms. Our featured guest tonight is a drummer, DJ, producer, culinary entrepreneur, New York Times bestselling author, and member of The Roots. Amir Questlove Thompson is the unmistakable heartbeat of Philadelphia's most influential hip-hop group. He's the music director of The Tonight Show, starring Jimmy Fallon, where his beloved Roots crew serves as house band. Beyond that, the five-time Grammy Award crew, the Grammy Award-winning musician's indisputable reputation has landed him musical directing positions with everyone from D'Angelo to Eminem to Jay-Z. Questlove has also released multiple books, including the New York Times bestsellers Mo Meta Blues and Creative Quest, Grammy-nominated audiobook Creative Quest, Soul Train, The Music, Dance and Style of a Generation, James Beard Award-nominated Something to Food About, and most recently, Mixtape Potluck. Questlove and Black Thought of The Roots have executive produced the acclaimed documentary series Hip Hop, The Songs That Shook America on AMC under their production company 215 Entertainment, which recently announced a first look deal with Universal Television to develop scripted and non-scripted programming. Questlove will serve as executive producer for upcoming documentary The League, centered on the tumultuous journey of Negro League Baseball. He also made his directorial debut with the acclaimed feature documentary, which we're talking about tonight, Summer of Soul, which explores the legendary 1961 Harlem Cultural Festival. The film premiered on the opening night of the 2021 Sundance Film Festival in January, where it was awarded the Grand Jury Prize, an audience award for Best U.S. Documentary. The film most recently broke the record for the highest selling documentary to come out of Sundance when it was acquired by Searchlight Hulu, and it's also nominated for Best Documentary Feature at the Oscars. Questlove is also set to direct the upcoming Sly Stone feature documentary. An amazing duo tonight. If you'd like to ask questions during the conversation, please type them into the Q&A in the button at the bottom of your screen. Odario will be keeping an eye on it and will try to get to as many as he possibly can. Also, a reminder to those who need the reminder, you can choose your screen settings with the view button in the top right-hand corner of your screen. And for those of you who haven't yet seen the film, first of all, what are you waiting for? Second of all, let's roll the trailer before we bring them in.
Are you ready, black people? Are you really ready? Are you ready to listen to all the beautiful black voices, the beautiful black feeling, the beautiful black waves moving in beautiful air? Are you ready, black people? Are you ready?
Nobody ever heard of the Harlem Culture Festival. Nobody would believe that happened.
6 weekends of major artists.
The Panthers were the security and kids were sitting up on the trees. I was nervous.
I didn't expect a crowd like that. Something very important was happening. It wasn't just about the music.
1969 was a change of era in the black community.
The styles were changing.
Music was changing.
And revolution was coming together.
We are a new people. We are a beautiful people.
That concert took my life from black and white into color.
We wanted progress. We are black people, and we should be proud of this.
We were coming together to say this was our world and how beautiful it was.
We're gonna try to sing a song together. Don't wait for your neighbor, because your neighbor might be waiting for you.
Wanna take you higher? Are you ready? Wanna take you higher?
We believed in what we felt in here. So when we went up, let's go. Let's go do it.
Amazing. It is my pleasure to welcome Odario and Questlove. Come on in, guys.
How did I get here? Who are you guys?
Over to you.
Hey, what's up? How you doing?
Well, good. Damn.
Thank you for that introduction. I also realized that I'm gonna talk to my publicist to see if I can do a more succinct. I don't know. After the 11th minute, I was just like, all right, I'm here. Okay, I do stuff.
Yeah. Not only that, you do a lot of interviews too, I'm sure.
You know, it's weird. I think I was told my first manager who passed away actually told me that I don't know how they weigh the content of an artist as they, you know, go throughout their career, but I think someone told me that officially, like, if they were to look at the actual volume of weight and as far as like my press, I might be the most interviewed artist of all time.
Right.
Because I definitely know that at least for the first 10 years of my life, not life, of my professional career, I was easily a 5 to 7 hour a day interviewee. I think once for a cover story, which was just supposed to be a blurb, but it wound up being a 16-hour conversation. So prepare for that type of energy right now, people.
That's because you're you want to use the word geek or nerd? Which one you want to use?
You know what? I've been using the word dweeb.
Dweeb?
I don't know. It's weird. I don't know why I fell into a Dipset hole. I don't know what I was listening to on YouTube, but there was a point where Jim Jones called somebody a dweeb, and that was like, that was one of them high school like names that I remember, like, well, not high school, like middle, like 7th, 8th grade names that I remember. So
right.
I was like, all right, I'm gonna own that. I'm trying to own all the things that, you know, there was no being cool being a nerd back in the 80s. So,
right, but now it's damn cool.
Oh my God, it's damn near a requirement.
That's what I'm saying. So welcome to Geeks and Dweebs, everybody.
There you go.
I'm hanging with my man Questlove. Yo, let me ask you something.
Mhm.
How Philadelphia is this John word? For real, for real.
You know, I didn't want to come into this world like all cutesy, you know what I mean? Like, but it's weird that there were kind of two moments during the editing process, and
Okay.
you know, during and we're editing in the pandemic.
Yeah.
And one of those moments, my producer Joseph was like, I'm gonna start a tradition for you. We're gonna call this a Questlove joint.
Okay.
And at first I think inside I was instantly, you know, just as a human being, as an artist, as a neurotic person that was formerly the guy that will always overthink things. You know, I've been told by a lot of friends, a lot of ex-girlfriends have called me the king of no. Like, you know, those people in your life that automatically say no just to be a contrary person, and, you know, because they believe in safety and that sort of thing. So instantly I was like, because people going to think like, oh, you trying to be cute, and then what are the movies whack? And then, yeah, I saw your joint, like that sort of thing. And but I don't know, I let it go because I'm a proud Philadelphian, and a joint is a Philly noun, a person, place, or thing.
Yeah.
If you're familiar with the hit comedy show Abbott Elementary,
No, I'm not.
well, Abbott Elementary, if you were to take the pace and the rhythm of a show like Modern Family,
Okay.
and replace it and put it in a black middle school in Philadelphia,
Okay. Okay.
it's a hit show right now here in the States, and it's like there's a cold open that they had before the show starts where they're trying to teach Philly slang or to like their kids, because these are words they use. And I realized like Philadelphia has very distinctive, like we say water, WORDER.
Water.
All right is ARD.
All right.
Ard. All right. Ard.
All right.
Bull. That's a male. Like, yo, I'm gonna go talk to the bull. Like, what are you doing right now, man? I'm talking to the bull. Like, you know, I'm talking to the bull. Like, and of course, the king of them all is John.
You guys are worse than Boston.
We're lazy. That's it. We have lazy vernacular. And instead of say joint, as in that's the joint, you know, that's my jam, that's my joint. It's like, yeah, man, that's my joint.
That's my John. So that's it.
That's my
John. So
Yeah.
this is a Questlove John. This is a Questlove John.
It's my joint.
So it reminds me of a Spike Lee joint.
Yes, but this is a Questlove joint.
I like that.
He's Brooklyn. You know, it's McDowell's and McDonald's. See, I'm serving the Big Mick.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, were you inspired at all by the man though? By
It's
Mr.
literally impossible to not be. I'm gonna tell you how effective Spike Lee is. Because of Spike Lee, I'll say that I would like to think, you know, She's Gotta Have It came out in '86.
Yeah.
I wasn't that keenly aware of what we now just casually call like art house films.
Yeah.
So, but I realized like, oh, you know, there's something much more than just the, you know, the summer popcorn films and the popular ones that we talk about at school. There's these other types of films that I see getting better ratings and better reviews than, you know, Throw Mama from the Train Part 3.
Yeah.
So I think around '86, I started to get heavy into art house. There's like a really good art house movie theater in Philadelphia, which weird enough, I would like to say that probably next to Patton Oswalt, I would have liked to have thought myself as the guy that really has a knowledge of like all the great movie houses across the states, because in my days off, I love going to the movies. Like even now, if I had a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off, I've had moments where I'm in New York City and I'll see that something's playing at Quentin Tarantino's movie theater in Los Angeles. And I'll just be very casual with it, and like, all right, I can get to the airport on time. Run to the airport real quick, hop a 5-hour flight just to see this film.
Right.
And hop and come back. But I keep, that's to me, it starts with Spike. And then once you study him and his canon and you watch interviews and you listen to directors' commentaries, then he leads you down other roads. And then I'm studying what, it just leads you. I'll say that a lot of my education, having lived on a tour bus for 20 years in the Roots, like we've been on a tour bus from like 93 to at least 2010. That's I'm the art house DVD person. I'm the Criterion collection part of the
yes.
No, but Tariq is also like we have a balance on the so sometimes it's Master P night, sometimes it's
of course.
Of course.
So we are adding the name, the title director to your list of accolades. So first time director, I do remember you had to thank your girlfriend, your partner, for, well, I'll let you tell the story, but you had to thank her.
Keep the peace in the house. No, I'm playing.
Pushing you over the edge.
Yeah, I'll say that maybe, my life, pivots, breakthroughs, and upgrades are very hard things for human beings to deal with. As a kid, first 10 years of my life, I unwillingly or just, I had to learn the family trade because they didn't believe in babysitters. So instead of leaving me with a babysitter, I'm on the job learning what spotlights are, what, monitors are. And then the next 10 years of my life, up until 10 to 20, I became my dad's band director because I knew how to drum and his drummer's arm is broken. And, and then when I was 20,
that's the great Lee Andrews.
Lee Andrews in the Hearts, right. So when I was 20, my next upgrade was the Roots, and specifically how to tell my dad, I don't want to go to Juilliard and I got a record deal and I'm going to London. Bye. And so 30 was, after spending those years with the Roots, like, can I go step outside the Roots and work with other artists? And that's where the D'Angelos and the Jay-Z's and all those people come into play. And then when I was 40, and all this happens in the first year of each decade, like when I turn a milestone age. When I was 40, the big pivot was, do we leave all this behind for the last 20 years to do a television show?
Right.
That could work or not work. Right. And there was a risk, but we took it. And now that I'm 50, in that period between 40 and 50, I'll say that I learned that creativity is transferable, and that I realized that there's a creative process for chefs, the same way that there's a creative process for musicians and for comedy writers, and everyone has a creative process. And it's weird, I almost didn't take my own advice because, my creative quest book, I said, like, embrace the uncomfortableness, place yourself in uncomfortable situations and learn things. And so when the opportunity came up to direct, I probably spent 6 to 7 weeks, like, figuring how to get out of it, not returning phone calls. I don't care. Like, I'm not doing this. Find a real director because I don't know what I'm doing. And, but she's I'll say that my girlfriend is amazing in terms of always, her magic trick is always silly. Open your eyes.
That's
Oh, okay, this is it. And it's
Yeah.
never like it's never rocket science. It's always like, oh yeah, I am in my own head. Yeah, I do tell
right.
stories. And so that I'll say that was the point where she just told me, like, get over yourself. You love history. This is your chance to correct history.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I'm giving her that credit.
Right. And for those that don't know, this was presented to you. Your name came up for somebody that could possibly bring this to light. And
Right.
you did see it as a huge endeavor, which it is. I mean, huge. And you almost passed.
I straight up passed because because initially it was sort of like, well, we'll talk. And you know, like if you have a group of friends where it's like, I'll try to make it. All right, I'm gonna try to make it.
Yeah.
That's basically their way of, I need to stall for time to think of a better excuse to give you because I'm too afraid to say no.
Right.
All right, so we can talk, and you know, and I'm like, all right, I'll buy some time to figure out how to get out of this thing.
Right.
And this is what artists do every time. I will say that I'm at least wise enough to listen to my ledge talkers, because if there's anyone that can find a way to ruin something or ledge talk, because I don't want to misrepresent myself, that like, yes, I go into everything, like bungee jump, let's do it. Like, you know, I'm right now 73 floors up, you know.
Yeah, and I see that. I see that gorgeous tower behind you.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that basically, yeah, I just, for me, it was fear. There was fear in there, but you know, they said, look, you already tell stories. You teach in your DJ gigs. You teach literally at NYU. You teach on your podcast. You teach, like, why not this?
Right.
And I realized that this was my chance to make something for a future 5-year-old Amir.
Yeah. Okay.
Whoever he or she is.
Okay.
That didn't get that, you know, to make up for the movie that I didn't get to see when I was a kid.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I mean, this film is fantastic. It, you know, what started off as supposed to be, you know, a little music doc and show some performances.
Mm-hmm.
It's an American history lesson. And it puts a lot of emphasis on the year 1969. You know, I had to remind myself that just a year ago, Martin Luther King was assassinated. 4 years prior, Malcolm X was assassinated. You know, you've got the Kennedys, and you've got these Black people in Harlem, you know, feeling neglected. A year prior to Martin Luther King's assassination, and now let's just have a time in a park. But everyone came out. They wanted that time. They needed it. They were desperate for it.
Good times and happy moments were far and few between during that time period. And you know, even though we focused on like the Kennedys and Malcolm, but you know, there were so Medgar Evers, like by that point, almost as numbing as it is in the States right now for sort of unarmed police killings. Just losing a civil rights leader, losing someone who's asking for basic fundamental civil rights was becoming commonplace. And you know, and as a result, that anger and the stinging and the pain of it all led to a lot of riots. Weird enough, in all the major cities, there were major riots when Martin Luther King passed away, except for the city of Boston. Speaking of Boston,
right?
It just so happens that James Brown happened to be in Boston that night,
right?
And the mayor asked permission if they could broadcast the show on television, sort of to keep the peace and keep people in. And as a result, James Brown doing a 3-hour show kept people inside watching him. And Boston didn't burn that. And literally, like, Boston's the only major city that didn't go up in flames.
That's right. Yes. Yes.
And so this was a major concern in 1969. Like, there's anger in the air and people are feeling hopeless and lost. We got to do something. And
Right.
that's the main reason why this festival was allowed to happen in the summer of 1969.
Right. So, okay, let's jump around a little bit because I got so many things circling around my head. So now, when you finally decided you were going to make this thing, or at least help these gentlemen make this thing and take the wheel, 2020 hit, pandemic hit, and it went from being just a simple little music doc to having a huge message. So how did the pandemic affect how you were going to present this thing?
Well, it went from me curating a really cool 16 or 17 song list of all the artists that were there, to me balled up in the corner in the fetal position, you know, because the thing, like, you were there. It's not like there's a lack of witness.
Right.
I mean, we're in a different place now where there's vaccines and there's hope, but I mean, there was a period between March of 2020 where literally in a snap, oh, they died. They died. Like, and literally it was like just each week was just like a button on a guillotine. Like, are you going to fall through the trap door or not? And so in my mind, I'm thinking, well, okay, this is the universe saying no movies. So it was fun, guys. I appreciated it. Check, please. I was ready to, and, you know, thank God to my resilient team. And my guy, Joseph Patel, was like, not so fast. There's a thing called Zoom, and we're going to utilize this thing, and we're going to communicate with each other. And we're going to have, you know, we're going to figure out like on-site camera crews, and we'll figure this out. We're going to push through this thing. And for me, I was just like, well, you know, March 16th of 2020 was day one of like an important watershed of interviews that we were going to do and a storyline that we were going to tell.
Wow.
And all that got washed away. Like, in my initial thing was like, okay, we're going to start in Harlem. And because, you know, there's a lot of people that just think Harlem is getting booted the Apollo and Sylvia Soul Food. Yeah. And so I wanted to start local in Harlem and show people why Harlem was so important to the United States, as far as, you know, it has to happen in Harlem first before it spreads anywhere else. To the, like, Harlem was the base of Black America. And, you know, there's Spanish Harlem, there's parts of Harlem. People didn't know that Harlem is multicultural. So then we want to expand there and kind of end maybe with the story of Hugh Masekela, which is now worldwide. Not many people know that Harry Belafonte was Hugh Masekela's sponsor.
Oh,
and yeah. So
I didn't know that.
It's him that helps him escape South Africa and study school in the UK, and then brings him to New York City. So we had everything planned out, like all these interviews. And then once the pandemic happened, it was like, wow, we starting from scratch now. And not to mention, so here's the weird thing, and this is not one of those be careful for what you ask for moments, but, you know, I've been waiting for some sort of sign on how am I going to make this remotely interesting to anyone born after 1995. Like, how are millennials, how are people in their 20s and under going to, you know, because like we just look like boomers to them. Like, oh, here's more
Right.
old people stuff. And for the longest, I was just hitting my head against the wall. And the only thing I could come up with was like, wow, maybe if I can get Drake involved, because his uncle Sly Stone's, you know, is his dad's brother.
Yeah.
And I thought, like, if that can happen, then maybe Gen Z and post Gen Z will.
Right.
And, you know, it's weird. What winds up happening is the connection that will bring this home for that generation is the fact that what I'm talking about is literally being lived out in real time,
right,
for them, because suddenly Black George Floyd's happening,
right,
Breonna Taylor's happening, protest in the street, and suddenly it's like you can't tell the difference between what we're editing and what we're living in.
Yeah.
And suddenly the story literally just wrote itself.
So, and I remember you, what's funny, you were the music director for the Oscars. You were the DJ.
I might have been de facto host, because I feel like the last person to speak on the Oscar stage is kind of the host.
Fair.
Thank you very much. That was in 2000. I was like, wait, was I the host? I hosted the Oscars.
Okay, fair. Then a year later, you're nominated for one. So congrats for that, by the way. So, okay, let me just say one thing. My most favorite live Instagram that you've ever done is when you went live backstage at the Oscars and walked us to, which I think was your DJ setup or something.
Was it last year or the year before?
I think it was the year before. It's 2020. It was 2020.
For some reason, I've been involved in the Oscars for 4 years in a row. I remember the first year was just me doing something for Lego Movie with The Lonely Island. And then that led to, I think I did something with Lin-Manuel. Like I drummed, or I was part of the band the next year, and I DJ'd a little bit. And then when the pandemic happened, then it's like, you want to come back again? So it's weird that I keep coming back to the Oscars in different roles. You know.
So Eddie, congratulations for this.
Thank you.
So my point is that I remember watching a trailer at the Oscars 2021 for what was about to come.
Yes.
And I was floored. And the reason why I was floored is because not only did it look good, it sounded good. And I couldn't wait to ask you in person, because I know you were a sound geek, or I should say dweeb. You were a sound dweeb.
Yeah.
How did you make Sly Stone set sound so good? How did that slap so nicely? You don't have to tell me the truth if you don't want to.
When I tell you, we did nothing.
Really?
This is all I'm gonna tell you. It's so weird to me, because this really relies on whoever was at the soundboard in the film booth for the original crew.
Really? In 1969?
This is what you have to understand. 15, they're underserved. There's like no lights, there's no budget, there's no lights, there's none of those things. Dude, just 15 microphones.
Wow.
And the thing is, and I know, like, we've been using this term, like, well, as soon as it gets back to normal, you know, I'm gonna blah, blah, blah. As soon as we get back to normal, I'm gonna blah. Like, basically, like, we're just dying for, like, whatever life was between year 0 and 2019. I'm not gonna say as soon as we get back to normal, but I really would like to see if it's possible for the Roots to be as good as we are with only 15 microphones.
The things they did back then, man, seriously.
But it shows me that less is more, because literally we sent the film to be mixed, you know? And when I heard it, we kept looking at each other and nobody was saying
real.
And and nobody said nothing. And here's the thing, I've made and produced over 30 albums. And I know what demo-itis is. And I've learned some of the biggest arguments in the Roots is in the name of demo-itis, where, you know, Tariq might be married to the rough mix that he wrote a rhyme to. And then when I take the mix and mix it and really put my magic on it, they're like, nah, this doesn't feel like the same. I liked it. And so many demo-itis, you know, so many arguments have happened in the name of demo-itis. We've dropped great songs off the record because it's either that or pugilism in the name of demo-itis. And so I do remember saying to Joseph and Zara, like, okay, this is kind of a white elephant in the room, but is it me or did I like the way that the music sounded?
Wow.
Just off the rough mix of what was 50 years ago.
Wow.
We were like, yeah, kind of like that. I was like, so can we just tell them not to do much to it? Like, we don't have to mix it, but
wow.
And literally it felt natural.
It's rich. For those of you who haven't watched it yet, probably hopping on just to listen to us chat first, listen to the Sly Stone set. The drums, everything, that track, the whole set is perfectly mixed. The gospel set.
Let me tell you something about the Sly thing. So, you know, my first draft was 3 hours and 25 minutes.
That's right. We were going to get to that. Yes, go on.
So the thing is that, you know, I'm wrestling in between what performances gave me goosebumps versus the hits. You know, because like if you have the fifth dimension, you might have to do Beautiful Balloon. You got to do My Sharia Moore if you're Stevie Wonder. But also like, well, what about the magic? Like the magic's in this performance.
In this, right.
And some of the songs that weren't hits gave me more magic than anything.
Right.
So
okay.
There's a point where we're trying to cut 90 minutes away from the film, and I'm fighting tooth and nail for everything. And I remember they were like, look, Sly's already doing 2 songs. Can you, let's get rid of Sing a Simple Song. And I was like, yo, you don't understand. If I let one of the most popular breakbeats that has fed over 500 songs, which is Sing a Simple Song, if I let that on the cutting room floor, like hip hop will not forgive me. Like I gotta give them one drum break. So I fought tooth and nail for the Sing a Simple Song inclusion. And I fought tooth and nail for the Lost Wallet story of The Age of Aquarius with Billy Davis and Merlin McCoo.
I love that. Okay, let's dig into this. Okay, so for people that don't know, Brother Question here was handed over 40 hours of material in order to make this 2-hour film. He had brought it down to 3.5 hours and then had to chop another hour and a half.
2 hours. They wanted 90 minutes.
Oh man.
And I was just like, okay, there's no way you can get me to drop more footage. Like how? So I had to fight. I had to fight for those 2 hours.
Tell me a couple stories that ended up on the cutting room floor.
Comedy's one. Because if you'll notice once, it's like, well, why would he have Chris Rock in this film to talk about Stevie Wonder for 1 second?
Right.
So comedy is an element that I really wanted to dig into, because the thing is that you're watching 4 very distinctive comedians kill. I mean, the audience is just like, oh my, like they're dying. But I noticed that comedy might be the one form of entertainment next to food that is a very timed thing. Like, milk is great for your cereal, but that milk carton you bought in 1976 might not hit you the same way in 2020. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so, you know, there's and Picnic Markham, who's the one artist that's performed the Apollo Theater more than anyone. I mean, his level of comedy starts off in minstrel, blackface, every level of black comedy from the 30s to this point. So, but he's such an expert at this sort of level of vaudeville, like a Black Abbott and Costello thing that he does. And then there's Moms Mabley, a Black woman, one of the most popular Black comedians of her era. And then there's George Kirby, a guy who, you know, like a popular comedian used to be this cat named Rich Little. It's hard to see now. Maybe in SNL, they will take like a person that knows how to imitate people well. But that was like a gift. And so George Kirby was like the guy of 1,000 voices. He could do Johnny Mathis and Sammy Davis and Pearl Bailey, like people of the day. And the audience was like, yo, he's. And then there was Willie Tyler and Lester. Black ventriloquist act.
Yes.
It would have taken me about 25 minutes to really explain how Black humor functioned throughout time, from its minstrel beginnings to that end. So it's like I had to chop that because I lost half of my interviewees. Like, you know, I had Whoopi Goldberg and Chappelle and all these comedians, but then when the pandemic happened, you know, everyone like went to their corner. So there's that. There's a lot that we had to drop, but that's a chunk.
So, okay, so having said all that, now mind you, you did get Marilyn McCoo, so you got points for that. You got Marilyn McCoo. I mean, the real Marilyn showed up.
You know, it's weird that that's magic you can't plan. And it's magic you can't plan because I'm certain that maybe a more experienced, and I mean experience in terms of one that's, you know, if I had been doing movies for 10 years, I might know, okay, we need an emotional component. Like, give me some onion.
Right, those things, right.
And the emotional component of this film came from the two sources that I instantly dismissed from the gate, which was, I mean, I didn't dismiss Billy Davis and Marilyn McCoo, but it's just like, I didn't know what story I was going to get from them or what it was like, you know, and I went with the flow, but Marilyn McCoo offered me a door and I went through it. And it started with, I did a side comment that I didn't even mean to be answered. I said, you know, it's weird. Of all the decades I've been watching you guys, I didn't know that you guys knew how to dance. Because the thing is, when you watch The Fifth Dimension, like when you did when I was a kid, they were very sophisticated, very prim and proper. They move sophisticated. And it's almost like I recognized, I was like, wait, you guys do know how to dance and get down. But the only time I've seen that is here. And then that sort of started the ball rolling on.
Oh, she got emotional on that part, man.
Right. And that started the ball rolling on how important the show was to them to at least connect with Black people.
Yeah.
Because they came out the gate as a pop act. Right. And I realized then, so code switching works even in entertainment. Like, it's not just, you know, in the office place. And code switching is something that Black people are very familiar with in terms of, a friend of mine told me, he joked, he's like, yo, Black people know 2 languages when they come on the earth. They know Ebonics and they know job interview. And job interview is, yes, very much, Mr. Johnson. Motherfucker. You know, it's a switch thing that we're equipped with because it's for survival, which is why Sly and the Family Stone's entry into this thing was revolutionary, because Sly did the one thing that none of those acts did. the most revolutionary thing that Sly did that day was come on stage in his street clothes.
I love that.
No one, are you crazy to come on stage looking like this in your play clothes? Like Black people have this thing, like your school clothes and your play clothes.
And your church clothes.
Yes. And
I love that.
I was raised in a household where if I went outside, if I went to the movies, my grandma made me put a suit on. If I got on a plane, and that's because it's in case the police get you.
That's right.
If you're in a suit, you might seem harmless to them. And and that was the code like that. So now when I go in the airport and I see like kids just in their pajamas, I'm seething with anger because it's like, yo, that freedom you have, like you can sit on the plane in your pajamas. I had to wear a 3-piece suit when I was a kid.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, and my second emotional component was Musa Jackson, who I thought was way too young to give me any meaningful insight. And the fact that, and it's so weird because Sheila E. told me, she's like, I had to maintain my composure when I saw this footage. And the first thing I wanted to do was cry. Because she said, like, even 11-year-old Sheila E. needed to see this when she was a kid.
Yes.
Like it's
yes.
And that's the one thing I didn't plan on happening.
Yeah.
That I got nervous about. Like, do we stop rolling or should I get her tissue? Like, I was nervous. I didn't realize like that emotional component helps this film,
Yeah, and I love that you stumbled upon that. I love stories like that. I didn't know that. I like that you brought Sheila E. in and she's looking at this Ray Barretto clip and, she wasn't even there, but she got emotional over it. I love that,
Yeah. Well, it was important, like I know that once we decide to go to the narrative route in terms of like talking about what socially happened, but also talking about how this festival happened or why it was allowed to happen. But then there's just nerdy stuff I wanted to do as well. I wanted to know like different drum techniques, different musician techniques. I wanted to know what was on the Staple Singers rider. Like I just wanted to know like, nerdy backstage stuff. So I knew that Sheila E. could give me great commentary on the difference because the drum solo was the most prominent thing that from Stevie Wonder all the way to, there were at least 11 drum solos. And I wanted the drummer expert that I trust to explain these things.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And, back to Fifth Dimension, the Marilyn McCoo part, just to have her tear up and say she just wanted Black people to appreciate their music, it got me thinking how that narrative has stretched for decades. It got me thinking about the intro of Things Fall Apart, your 99 album, and you use that clip from Spike Lee's Mo Better Blues, which spoke on that very subject, playing for Black people.
The second she went there, then I realized that was I See You.
Yeah.
Like that's when I realized, oh wow, I have a lot in common with the Fifth Dimension because other acts might not have to go through this. I definitely don't think white acts go through this, but there's certain acts, I've talked to the Fishbones of the world. I've talked to a lot of underground hip hop cats of the world where, it means something to you. And I think oftentimes people want to ask or are afraid to ask, like, well, why is it such a big deal that, that there has to be a diverse cast or, this thing happens. And it's like, people want to feel seen and want to feel heard. That's one of the things I learned in the pandemic. I learned that we've been arguing wrong. Okay,
Mm.
am I about to go into TMI territory about my personal life? No. But here's the deal. I've learned. Well, thank God, my girlfriend and I were, there've been a lot of births in the pandemics and a lot of divorces and breakups because, to live with a person for 19 hours in the same roof is different than going to work for 10 hours and only being with them for 7. But I learned not how to argue, but how to communicate. And oftentimes I've learned that the goal in people's lives is, I know we do this thing where it's like, I have to be right. And there are some people that live with, would you rather be right or would you rather have a solution? But I will say that people in general want to be seen and be heard.
Yeah.
More than being right. And, I feel as though for a lot of artists, it's frustrating sometimes when you don't see people that look like you supporting you. Because you want that feeling of pride, like, oh, they're proud of me and that sort of thing. So I understood where she was coming from.
Yeah. And, it's the music you're making that you wanted it to connect with people.
Resonate. Yeah.
Resonate. Man, even Bob Marley said it. Bob Marley's first American tour, he wanted to know why there was no Black people in the audience. He couldn't understand it coming from Jamaica, where it's 90% Black. He didn't understand it. So then what they had to do was throw him on top of a Earth, Wind and Fire show, just so he could see. And you know what happened then? The Black folks waited for this man to finish so they could get Earth, Wind and Fire.
Well, there's also an opposite story. One of the stories I learned about the Commodores and Lionel Richie's exit was that Bob Marley opened up for the Commodores once in '79.
Yeah.
This is when he was God, because by 78, 79, suddenly like Bob Marley's a whole nother entity. And he tore it up. And then the second that Marley was over, half of Madison Square Garden just left with him.
Whoa.
And I think that was a wake-up call to Lionel Richie about like,
whoa,
I gotta fix this situation. I can't have this.
That's borderline. That's borderline Whitney getting booed at the Black Awards,
the Soul Train Awards. No, it's for me, that's an important connection, and so
yes. So that came off of the fifth dimension story, because I'm not going to lie, before that, Fifth Dimension was never really my favorite. I didn't like that Aquarius stuff. And then until I saw that story, I changed my mind completely. I get it. And watching Marilyn
helped them a lot.
Tear up like that.
Dude, the fact that I was a part of that, and we actually spoke yesterday. And the thing, like, I was raised on them. Like, I was raised in a 3,000 record household. And I grew up watching they had a variety show on in the 70s. And it's just like freaking me out that like, wow, like being raised on your variety show and being raised on Solid Gold, the show that Merlin hosted in the 80s. Like, wow, like I did something to help you guys out. Like,
wow,
that's an amazing
That's amazing moment. That is amazing.
I'm happy for that. Yes.
That's amazing. So for the folks so interested in the documentarian side of you, I should ask some of those questions.
Sure.
So as a documentarian, how did you approach finding people that were there in 1969?
All right, so I'm sure you're familiar with the wait, if an animal is in it, is it a fable? The little boy that cried wolf.
Yeah.
We can ask our audience of 100 down there. So I will say that was a common denominator amongst everyone involved. I'm told about this thing and I didn't believe it happened. I Googled it and nothing came up. So it didn't happen. So what are you guys really trying to tell? Is this a trap? And the way that I voiced it on social media was like, yo, do you got a crazy grandmom that swears to God that sometime in 1969 she saw a free show with 80,000 people that no one can prove And everyone came back in droves like, yo, that's all my mom or my grandma talks about. I saw Stevie
Wow.
Wonder Stone. And it's like, we thought they were lying. And at least for Musa Jackson, it's like, I know that his tears really came from finally someone believes me. And that's the thing. I needed witnesses because no one heard of this thing. And my first question was like, yo, is Black Erasure this easy? Is it this easy? Is it so casual? Is it like Check Please, like that casual that you can forget something as if it never happened? And here's the weird question. A month after this film comes out, the amount of emails and DMs that I've gotten from,
Wow.
the typical body of the letter is, hey, Questlove, I don't know if you know this, but in 1976, we threw a festival and with this platinum artist, this icon, this platinum artist, this platinum artist, this god of acting, and And we shot like 16 hours of it, but the footage has been sitting here at the University of blah 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 for the last 40 years. Maybe you'll want to do something with it. And I'm like, no.
Wow.
So about 9 of those are happening right now.
Yeah. Like you're looking into
three of them are about to come to life right now, of films that like I thought I'd never seen this. Like I've heard about certain, I don't want to jump the gun.
Well, of course,
them announcing it. But yeah, one film in particular that I knew about in the early 70s that has been talked about and no one could find. Literally, the 11 master reels were placed in the wrong canister.
Okay.
And they've been searching for this film for at least the last 5 decades. They just found it. We just found it. So yeah, a lot is about to be unearthed. Hopefully this is the sprawling of beautiful Black stories we didn't know that we needed.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. So tell people about Hal.
Well, in terms of how I got them, or
yeah, so Hal, his name's Hal, right?
Oh, Hal Tolson.
Yes, Hal, yes.
I thought you meant H-O-W. Yeah, Hal, so the seed starts with Tony Lawrence. Tony Lawrence is a Google engine search nightmare. The one question I could not answer is what happened to Tony Lawrence?
Quick question, is he still alive?
I'm afraid that answer might have to be no. We have not confirmed.
Wow.
The paper trail on his life sort of stops.
Wow.
In like the 90s. After the 90s, we don't know what happens to him.
So for people that don't know, he's pretty much the Don King of concert promotion in Harlem.
Or the way I like to say it is he's the good version of Adam Sandler's character in Uncut Gems.
Okay.
Not the guy that will rob Peter to pay Paul, but yeah, he definitely would hustle. And do you know that Stevie Wonder's doing my thing? Really? I want to do it. All right, great. Hey, Stevie, do you know that da-da-da's doing my thing? Really? I didn't mean that. And, but that's how he would hustle a moment. And, that has to be the thing, because why else would Sly and the Family Stone do this for $2,000
from San Francisco? Like the whole band.
I don't know how he did it, but it was definitely a hook or crook thing. So it starts with Hal Tolson, and Hal Tolson convinces the mayor of New York City that this is important for us and for Black people and for history. And then he dreams even bigger. It's like, yo, we need to document this. So he enlists the talents of Hal Tolson, who has connects to a film crew and production company. And they document 5 weeks worth of this festival. And side note, they would have documented 6 weeks of it. However, the company that Hal Tolson hired already had a commitment on the last week of August to shoot a pilot for a television show that they couldn't get out of. And that left Hal and Tony scrambling on, okay, well, we got to put our big hitters on the first 5 weeks. And that last, the last week, we'll just put the unknown, we'll do the Miss Black Harlem pageant there, and we'll put the unknown acts. So they put the nobodies on week 6 because there's no camera crew.
Wow.
So here's the unfortunate thing. We missed an opportunity to watch the very first public performance of Luther Vandross at the age of 17. He was the local nobody. So, yeah. Also, Jimi Hendrix was a close but no cigar moment.
I love these stories.
I don't know if it was due to Jimi Hendrixing or if it was amount of time or getting on the schedule, but he wanted to come on with Sly. Sly was unannounced. So, that's why the audience is acting crazy, because they don't know that Sly's coming until like an hour before. And Aretha Franklin was also supposed to be on Gospel Day. And
that's too much. That's just too much.
It was 11th hour cancellation. So that's why Mavis Staples filled in for Precious Lord.
Whoa.
But you know what?
So Aretha doesn't fly. I wonder if she...
All I know is that I realize that, we still had no context in the very beginning. We just had the footage and nothing else.
Yeah.
So when Hal Tolson signs over the movie to us, it's the very last act that he does. He passes away 24 to 30 hours later after he finally says, okay, I'm gonna sign over the movie.
What? So he passed away in 2017.
When he passed away, literally, it was on his deathbed.
Right. So for those of you who are trying to follow, Hal is the man that held the tapes. Yes. Now, were the tapes in his basement, the basement of his house?
The entire time. Yes, the entire time.
For 50 years.
Yes, the entire time. So all I know is that his widow was planning a move, I think, to Florida, whatever. It was kind of like, okay, here's some stuff here that was in the basement. I don't know if it means anything to you. There's a whole bunch of papers. There's a whole bunch of papers and stuff. So maybe this can help you a little project. And it's literally everything we ever wanted. It's
my goodness.
The backstage passes, it's the contracts.
My goodness.
It's the notes, it's the projection letters, and that's how we figure out that, Aretha Franklin was supposed to be on Gospel Day, and they had to scramble last minute to find an actor to replace them.
Oh my goodness.
So much that we found out, and that's kind of how the narrative part comes into play, because now we have a little context of photographers and musicians and that sort of thing.
Wow. Okay, one day I got to ask you a lot more about this, but a guy named Rick just made a very good point, and it is a very good aspect to this film, is how 1969, now I brought this up earlier, was a pivotal moment for Black Americans. It was the end of the Negro and the beginning of the Black person.
Right.
And I love that you I'd love to hear more about her. I believe her name is Charmaine. She worked for New York Times.
Charlene Hunter Galt, yes.
Charlene Hunter.
Charlene Hunter Galt. Very, the one thing I wanted to do in this documentary that you really don't get in a lot of other documentaries, it's like, okay, now that we're going to go here and be a history lesson, how are we going to separate ourselves from other documentaries that we've seen? And the one thing that you rarely get to hear in civil rights documentaries is you don't often hear the voices of the women that were also a part of the movement. Like we often think that the deacons of the church and these men are the ones that organized everything, but so many women were part of this movement, and it felt important to find the voices, which is why with Denise and with Charlene having two women that organized and was very, very instrumental in the civil rights movement to have a voice in this thing. And, you know, her story of being, you know, one of the first students to sort of break, you know, to be one of the first students that's at a college, one of the first Black students to, you know, her mere presence in her dorm starts a riot. You know what I mean? And so, you know, she's a journalist that has history in terms of being, she was one of the first journalists to use the word Black, which seemed very radical back then. You know, Black people have often, like, you know, I remember a time where, and if you call me African, if you call me African in a schoolyard, I might have to beat your ass. Like that's how deep the self-hate went with us in the 70s. And really not until I became a teenager. To be honest with you, like I'm one of the few Americans that is able to trace his genealogy. Like in 2017, I can finally say like, yo, I come from Benin. Like I know my slave ship and I know my, I'm 1%, the only 1% of the people, because of my story of being literally, my ancestors was on the very last ship that came to America. And on a coin toss, on a bet, on a $10,000 bet. But I digress. That's the other film that is happening right now that next year called Descendant. But yeah, just the identity of knowing who we are, that's important. Seeing ourselves, knowing who we are, taking pride in ourselves, like that's important. That's extremely important.
I love that.
Thank you.
Man, I'm looking out for that. Hopefully I'll be the one chatting with you about that as well.
Yeah, it's called Descendant, and we just we signed it to Higher Ground. It's literally a story of Africa Town. So my ancestors were the last captured Africans that wound up in Mobile, Alabama, long after slavery was over, but there were still people trying to cut deals like slaves over here, that sort of thing. And once they got here, of course, their captors got arrested for illegal activity. It was sort of like having cocaine on you, not you know, not like, oh, this is morally wrong, but it's almost like you had illegal cargo. So they established a place called Africa Town, which they essentially said, like, okay, if we can't go back to Benin, we're at least going to try to figure out how to live on this land and act like we're in Africa. And so that documentary just made a splash at Sundance, and we're proud to say that the
Obamas, all right, you heard it here first.
Yeah, that the Obamas are signing it. So yes.
Okay, I got one more question for you. This is a geek and dweeb question.
Yes.
So I can't believe I finally get to ask Brother Question this question. So if you could go back in time,
yes,
1 year, and live it in your formative years, pick whatever age you want, and it has to be a year and a city. Now, I always ask my dweeb friends this question. You know, my last answer was 1982 Lower East Side.
Right. So you might want to be careful. You might want to be careful.
I would love to be 1982 Lower East Side for a year and just have the time of my life. One time it was Berlin, 1996, I think it was. I always jump around, but I'm asking Questlove right now, a year and a city
Here's the deal.
say, like 24 or something like that.
I got you.
All right.
So last night, before last night, there was one time where I knew I was witnessing history in terms of me witnessing it, me not having anything to do with it. Okay. Now, you know, when I get with D'Angelo, I always feel like every performance is historical. Like, I feel like at least of the 100 performances I did with D'Angelo, I know someone's life had to have been changed watching in the audience, and that inspired them to do something. But in 1997, I was sitting in the audience, and we just got word that Luciano Pavarotti cannot perform, and the producer of the Grammys is frantically like, "Does anyone here know Ave Maria by Pavarotti?" And I mean, it's like a moment where it's like, no, no, no. And the most unlikely source said, "I'll do it," and it's Aretha Franklin.
Okay.
So, you know, we're like, wait, what's about to happen? She comes and she killed and sings it in the town. She killed Ave Maria. So I thought that was the one time in my life where I get to say I was there. Like the way that whoever was at the Shrine Auditorium watching Michael Jackson do the moonwalk for the first time, or whoever's watching Prince debut a song called Purple Rain the first time, or, you know, like that historical moment. Last night, I got to witness that moment in the form of comedy. I saw Chappelle and Chris Rock do one of the most amazing off-the-cuff 2-hour conversation where it's like they were Run DMC. Like, I was like, I've not seen mastery. Like, it was like if I could watch 86 Mike Tyson and 67 Ali spar, or if I could watch 91 Jordan and 91 Jordan versus like 2007 LeBron. Like, and I was like, wow, I'm watching historic.
Where was this? Where was it?
Last night in New York City. Just got a quick, hey, we're gonna, I was like, I gotta see this. And I'm changed. That said, the reason why I'm changed is because as a historian, I have so many magic moments documented, but I wish I was there to see it in person. So if you're asking me, if I could choose a year at the age of 24, I would give anything to see the Bootsy Collins, Phelps Collins, Clyde Schofield era of James Brown.
Woo!
Specifically,
what's that, 72? 74?
So their last year was 70. But according to one of my speakers in Summer of Soul, Alan Leeds, who was like Prince's manager. And
Yeah.
Alan Leeds tells a story about James Brown opening up for the Dells in Philadelphia that had him so nervous backstage because the Dells were killing it. It was to the point where James Brown was like, yo, throw them off stage right now. Like, James Brown was losing his lunch over getting upstage by the Dells. And he used that nervous energy. And Alan says, like, he never saw James Brown work harder in his life to prove that he's the man. And I wish I could see that performance. So, I would like to be a 24-year-older in 1973 to watch that concert. And then I would also run to my childhood home and intervene and sort of set, you know, figure out a way to get to my 2-year-old self to make sure that I stay on my path.
That is a good one. That made me think of that, oh boy, that Teddy Pendergrass. You were in it, actually.
Yeah.
When what's the name of the cat that put his name on the marquee?
Oh,
but he
Harold
wasn't doing the singing.
The Blue Notes. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Harold. Actually, okay, I got to leave you with this quick story.
Okay.
I later found out that James Brown's The Payback was kind of his version of Hit 'Em Up, Tupac's Hit 'Em Up.
Yeah.
To Harold Melvin.
What?
jealousy and player hating was very rampant among singers. And I mean, it could be one, you could turn your back for one moment and then see your girlfriend walking off with the next, whatever.
That might be a Philadelphia thing though, man. That might be a Philly thing.
Cock blocking is a worldwide thing. So, no, but yeah, I've learned recently that the payback is specifically about Harold Melvin.
Wow.
And with that, I gotta leave.
Bro, that is serious. That's serious.
Wait, I hope I haven't bored any of the participants in this thing. So
just so you know, I have a lot of comments saying this conversation is great. This conversation is wild. I'm really enjoying you guys.
Wow.
Yeah. So
okay.
Thank you everyone for sticking around, man. I'm with the man.
Thank you.
Once again, I guess I should let you go, my man. I can talk to you all night. I know that already.
I got a little more to do tonight. Yes. Thank you very much.
Yo, and thank you for the view. I see the World Trade Center behind you there. That's beautiful.
Yes, this is my bedroom right now.
I love it. I love it.
And as you can see, I'm a kid. I live under galaxy lights because I don't know. I love color. Like, I don't have one normal lamp in my house. Like it's all like art installations.
That's because you're a dweeb.
Yes, I am. All right. Thank you very much.
All right, my man.
All right.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
everyone.
Good luck. Good luck with the Oscars and the Grammys. You're nominated for both. So good luck on both those.
Thank you. All right.
All right.